You know, work this time? So that'd be fucking neat. Welcome to Slowly Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I'm here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. Been having some weird internet connection issues this morning, so I've tried to start this stream a couple of times, and it hasn't really got off the ground yet. So hopefully this one lands, and hopefully we can get through some stuff before I have to run and pick up a kid from school. The earth has lungs. Trees are the lungs. It's as carbon-based life forms, it's kind of important for us to have a natural machine, a natural filter that processes carbon dioxide and turns it into oxygen. Trees do, and the Amazon rainforest accounts for about 20% of the Earth's forest. So this is still standing, and we've deforested a lot of it. And Brazilian President Javier Bolsonaro has kicked that into high gear, which is something I will get into the more that I discuss this story. But my point to this is if we lose our ability, our natural filter to process CO2, we die. We're fucking done. I don't really know a kind or gentle way to put that. We're well fucked and far from home. When Javier Bolsonaro was handed to the Brazilian people on a U.S.-made electoral platter, he did so vowing to be the most openly business, logging, meat industry friendly president that Brazil had ever seen. And he has made good on that over the last several months, and at least one time on this show, if not a few, we've mentioned an escalation in attacks on indigenous tribes in Brazil. In the name of capitalism, in the name of expanding this industry. So it's kind of a wild fucking situation, because we've got a serious wildfire situation that you can't for once point to climate change as, oh, this is the reason for this. It's human greed. There's over 9,000 different fires going in the Amazon right now. Most of them are controlled burns. By large-scale farmers, so that they can either have grazing land for cattle, or they have something else they want a farmer produce there. So it's put not just the country of Brazil in a situation to where they're experiencing daylight hour blackouts because of how thick and heavy the smoke is. But we are 100% eliminating our ability as human beings to breathe comfortably, to, I don't know, fucking exist. If any of you guys can think of a particular group that could be pressured to, I don't know, lobby on behalf of, let's say, humans, to pressure the Bolsonaro government to do something, anything, an international or at least intercontinental team of firefighters should have already been there. When we have wildfires in California, I've got friends that are tree guys and whatnot, and they're called up to go pretty much anywhere to do emergency fire relief. It's just sort of a thing. Now, I understand that Brazil is a different country, but you would think in the interest of preserving humanity, there would be a lot of firefighters who are hopping a plane to at least one country over in order to get in and maybe, lend a hand or pitch out. But since so much of this is controlled burn for economic reasons, that may be why they're or at least appear to be holding off. This has been going on for 3 weeks, and we've had zero reporting in the mainstream media whatsoever about it. Siberia is burning. One of the coldest places historically on the planet is burning. We've got the wettest place on the planet, the Amazon rainforest basin, on fire. And again, a lot of that is controlled burns. A lot of that is for capitalistic and economic pursuits. But on top of that, there are also several hundred, if not several thousand, other fires that have occurred within the Brazilian rainforest basin. Couple that with every month or every year, July is the hottest month on record every year. We just got through a series of 100-degree days here on the central fucking coast of California. I'm 16 miles from the Pacific Ocean. I should not be experiencing fucking 100-degree days in what is I think, coniferous rainforest. I think that's what this counts as. The whole planet's bubbling over. The whole fucking planet. And our solution to that seems to be, let's elect more right-wing fascists and see if they can't squeeze a little bit more personal wealth for themselves in order to what? I don't know, make it more comfortable for them. Fuck it. The rainforest here in the Pacific Northwest went through about a 7-year drought period. And in that time, the fog belt sort of went away. These redwood trees behind me, they're foliar fed, which means their leaves take in moisture and water, and that's how they feed themselves. If we don't have a fog belt, if we're in more or less a perpetual drought, these big ass trees die. I would prefer to not see that happen. I don't know what to tell you about the Amazon being on fire, other than to tell you it's on fire because apparently nobody fucking else is talking about this. To a little bit more local and, I don't know, I guess a story that even impacts our ability to report on this kind of stuff. Twitter just came out with what's the fucking thing titled? Twitter's new policy on state-controlled news media should concern us all. This is from the Canary. I don't know if you guys read the Canary or not, but it's one of those outlets that gets it right more than they get it wrong. They're an independent outlet, and they're getting crushed by large corporations who do not want them to publish. So Twitter has announced an update on its advertisement policy, which may reflect yet another assault on free speech by social media giants. On August 19th, which was Monday, Twitter declared that, quote, going forward, we will not accept advertising from state-controlled news media entities. Which I would imagine would be RT, Telesur, Sputnik, Press TV, and Chinese CCTV, which would fall into the category of state-run or state-controlled media. But TV4 in Australia wouldn't, BBC wouldn't, any pro-Western, pro-U.S., pro our particular style of laissez-faire capitalism, or at least compliant with the empire country, will probably not be subject to these rules. So there's an author named Alan McLeod that the Canary interviewed here. And again, you guys need to remember, social media has a history of doing this shit. They removed thousands of pro-Palestinian pages on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. They did the exact same thing with pro-Venezuelan voices, especially during the siege of the Venezuelan embassy that took place while the failed coup was going on. If you're a regular watcher of the Slow News Day program, you will recall that I was interviewing my friend and comrade Al Suarez, who had flown up from Miami to stand with the embassy protectors and stand with Code Pink, who were outside the embassy and trying to get food into the people that were sieged inside with the permission of the United States government. A lot of those voices that were broadcasting and showing evidence that this coup with the pretender and puppet of the CIA, Juan Guaido, was being orchestrated in Washington, D.C., in and out of Marco Rubio's office in Florida. All those voices were silenced. All is harsh. A ton of those voices were silenced. Venezuelan analysis was down for a while. Telesur was completely defunded. So the person the Canary is quoting, again, the author, Alan McLeod, has to say these big tech giants have basically gotten into bed with the U.S. state. We've seen Facebook partnering with the Atlantic Council, which is an offshoot of NATO, whose board includes people like Kissinger, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, and 6 or 7 former and current heads of the CIA. That's the group deciding what is fake news and what is real news, and how the algorithms that dictate billions of people around the world are going to see the news. Jimmy Dore makes this point a lot. This guy, Alan McLeod, is going to make it again. I've made this point over and over and over. Lee Camp does the same thing. Anytime there is heavy censorship on what is news, it always roll back on the left. Always. McLeod says you can't really expect some of the largest capitalist media institutions in the world to give you money to promote an anti-capitalist message. I don't think that was ever going to continue. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. If you notice that when a far right person gets held up for public crucifixion for hate speech or whatever, they're only taken away on a couple of different platforms and still allowed to operate, in many cases still allowed to operate tangentially or via third party on the very platforms that prohibit them from broadcasting their show in the first place. What I'm trying to get at is that you can still be a successful far-right, alt-right, fucking Nazi douchebag piece of shit because you play a very functional role in perpetuating right-wing, quasi-fascist capitalism. So that's something to be aware of. It's something that you can expect to see as more heavy censorship, especially people who have larger shows on RT or Sputnik. I'm looking at the chat right now, and I'm basically seeing George Galloway's audience. I would look for a little bit more censorship on his show. Mike Sarvis, thanks for stopping in. I hope you have a wonderful day. I would like to talk for a minute, though, about what's going on in New Zealand, and why I have a little bit of a bone to pick with this article, because the article is titled World's first randomized study on the effects of microdosing LSD to get underway. The University of Auckland is looking to study the effects of small doses of LSD on people's health and well-being after promising new studies were conducted overseas 52 years after the hallucinogenic was outlawed in New Zealand. Do they credit MAPS? So right down the road for me in Santa Cruz is an organization called MAPS. It's the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. I think I even got that right. MAPS in part is fronted by Zach Leary, Timothy Leary's kid. They have been doing groundbreaking research with MDMA and PTSD veterans. They've been doing groundbreaking research with microdosing in general. So here's where the rubber meets the road in New Zealand. University of Auckland Associate Professor Suresh Murthamras. Why, it's a long ass word. I'm not even going to try and fuck up out loud again. I'll put it in the show notes. Waleed study says Suresh says he was prompted to undertake the study after being involved in previous LSD research, having previously worked with large doses of the drug in the UK. More recently, people have been talking a lot in the general public about microdosing LSD and that this might have positive effects on people's mood and cognition, but there are no studies. Well, there are no studies in New Zealand. There are actually several studies that have been put forth and successfully concluded by MAPS. You can look those up. And I'll go ahead and throw a link to MAPS in there too, even though they won't call me back for an interview. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with the CIA's history of using LSD in terms of mind control experiments in the 1950s, or who they experimented on in particular. I'm going to answer a couple of the questions in the chats regarding this, though. So LSD-25 is derived from ergot. Ergot is a fungus or a mold that grows specifically on rye wheat when it's growing. It is this particular fungal mold that a lot of witchcraft has been attributed to. Your sister lived next to the guy who made LSD for the Grateful Dead. His name eludes me. He left the U.S. pit. Okay, so look, his name was Owsley Stanley the third. He was the third Owsley Stanley. Owsley is a fascinating character in general, but there are lots and lots of reasons to believe that not just Owsley, not just the Grateful Dead, but the majority of the entire 1960s revolution was a giant fucking CIA controlled operation. Why would you say that, Steve? Well, here's why. Prior to the CIA getting a hold of it, LSD was something that you found out of Sandoz laboratories in modern day, I think, Prague. I think it's Prague. Yeah. In 1948, I believe, Albert Hofmann first successfully synthesized LSD-25. He was looking for a cure for the common headache. And boy, did he fucking find one. He went on a bike ride. It has become very, very famous since. Bicycle Day is a thing that is now celebrated as the day of Albert Hofmann's very first bicycle trip. Flash forward 7 years, and you've got CIA agents in academia on the East Coast in the Ivy Leagues there, and you've got them at Berkeley. In Berkeley, they get a hold of people like Ken Kesey, um, people like the guy who would become Wavy Gravy, whose real name eludes me. Um, I'm not that big of a fan of Wavy Gravies personally. I used to live and work on Spy Rock Road in Laytonville, across from the hog farm ish, and Wavy Gravy lives at the bottom of that road. Um, he's kind of a pretentious dick. If you've ever had the misfortune of meeting the man, Owsley, in terms like I met Owsley a few times. In fact, the last time I ran into Owsley was at the fucking hog farm. But yeah, he did. He expatted to Queensland. I believe he died there. Much nicer dude than Wavy Gravy. There's a whole thing with Owsley Stanley and belt buckles that he designed, and I'm really not going to go into that too much, but if you're a member of Grateful Dead family and you have an Owsley belt buckle, we have something in common, and we should hang out and talk. Yeah, no, I know Wavy Gravy's still around. I know. I'm just not a fan. He's kind of a douche. And it's not that Camp Win a Rainbow isn't a beautiful organization in thought or practice, but Wavy Gravy himself, giant fucking douchebag. Just, you know. So back to the whole point of this, because I did get off a little bit. New Zealand wants to study microdosing. The US is getting more and more comfortable with the idea of microdosing. Psilocybin mushrooms have been decriminalized in Oakland and Denver. If there's any other places, please let me know where they are in the chat. My take on the sudden interest in microdosing and the sudden acceptance of microdosing isn't that I think people finally recognize that there is unlimited potential in psychedelics, and that they could help us collectively understand not just ourselves better, but the world around us better. And it would help us, you know, vibrate collectively as humans on a plane where we could become more willing and able and understanding to make the sort of necessary and positive changes in our world and in our own selves to have a sustainable planet. I don't think that's the goal with microdosing. I don't think that's the goal with the push for it. I see this as we've had 65, 70 years of research on this particular chemical or this particular substance. And a few years ago, people started to figure out, hey, if my employee takes a very small amount of psychedelics, their mood gets better, their focus intensifies, and their productivity goes up. I can, through lobbying efforts, put pressure on my local government to legalize or decriminalize small amounts of these psychedelics that, when taken in microdose amounts, will overwhelmingly increase the productivity of my employees. This is something that they will be paying for out of their own money. We are not going to have to offer them a raise. We are not going to have to offer them a benefits package. We are simply going to say, we'll look the other way if you microdose here, because we know it'll be beneficial for us and it doesn't cost us anything. Now, I understand that that's a cynical approach, but It's your boy. I'm gonna say some cynical shit. I would really like there to be a genuine psychedelic movement within this country. Or at least acceptance, to the point to where really dusting off your third eye is something that becomes more commonplace and acceptable. I guarantee everybody knows somebody that's fucking tripped their tits off. I guarantee that. You may be one of those people. I certainly am. Microdosing to increase productivity so that your boss can buy a boat that fits in his boat or a new piece of income rental property is not, I don't think, what something like psilocybin was intended for. So it certainly gives me a little bit of pause and a little bit of concern when I see programs like this or initiatives like this going forward, because of course it sounds like a great idea. Of course it sounds like a beneficial thing. Of course it's something that people have been fighting for and going to prison for decades and decades and decades. And those people need some fucking respite. I know them. I know them personally. You know, I know people that just a couple of years ago to now, started getting out because of Operation Dead End in 1992, when they started swooping up everyone in Dead Family that was selling high amounts of psychedelics. So I get it. I do. I get it. I get it for a lot of reasons why something like this would be attractive to people. But I want everyone to think this all the way through, so that when you've got when you're in a conversation with someone, as hopefully you will be, about the benefits of psychedelics in general, or even microdosing for your own personal depression. Like, yeah, dude, do that. Do those things. Do the things that help you take better care of yourself. Please do that, but do it with a fully open pair of eyes, and know that you're being given the freedom to do this under the cover of the law, not because it's something that will help you, but it's something that will help your employer's bottom line. Oh, we're talking about Paul Stamets. All right. I'm gonna go to the chat here for a minute. I've got about 15 or 20 before I gotta go pick up the kiddo. Ruben Garcia, Philip Blair, Brooks still here, Karen Mitchell, Chili Love, Marshall Sanders. I am drinking kratom tea, Marshall. I have some powdered kratom and I added water. And it's one of those things that I have found to be beneficial throughout the course of my whatnots. Oh, cool. I will be on Ron Placone show on Monday to talk about the Free Assange Vigil series. That'll be fun. Let me do that for a second. Let me talk about the Free Assange Vigil series that I am a co-host of, along with Andrew Smith and Taylor Hudak, who started the Action for Assange organization, and Christy Dopp, who's been an integral member of Unity for J, both on Twitter and in the Discord. And with that particular Vigil series that ran its course and now morphed into a more straight news show called Consortium News Live, that's still done by Joe Laria and Elizabeth Voss, who is a if not frequent, certainly a returning guest to this show. I've got a couple of great interviews with her that you should check out. there's one like a month and a half ago where we both really just went to town on the QAnon thing, and that made for some good video. But tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Pacific, and if you are overseas, I believe it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, Greenwich Mean Time. We will be kicking off vigil number, I believe, 7. We're going to have at least one half of the band Antibody on the show tonight. We've got a couple other interviews, I believe. And what we're gearing up for starting Labor Day Monday, September 2nd, Wednesday, September 4th, and Friday, September 6th is basically like a giant conference of journalists and content creators from all over the planet who will be participating in solidarity interviews and whatnot. We confirmed for Labor Day Monday, and we're looking to add at least one other person. We've got the fantastic and amazing Graham Elwood, and Gordon Dimick is going to be popping in from the Gordon's content. We've been able to like sit down with the guy before, so I'm absolutely looking forward to that. It should be fun. A cupping set, that sounds kinky. I'm down. Tell me more. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this. Roadkill. I was visited by 3 triangular, see-through, 3-dimensional beings, just as McKenna described, and later I found the same description on Spirit Web. So, yo, dude, I've seen some shit. I have seen some shit right over there in that hammock. I think that when you open yourself up to the possibility that you're not alone, that there are other things out there, there is possibly an entirely separate plane of existence that overlaps this one. You can talk to the mechanical elves. You can. As Brooke pointed out. So the mechanical elves thing, man, like that's something that I think more or less everybody gets around to seeing just based off of having read Terrence McKenna's book. There's also, everybody talks about seeing the big Indian or the big fucking like spore gods, or so, you know, there's very common themes throughout psychedelic experiences. And I think that once you get an idea in your head of what you're supposed to see when you do one of these things, you absolutely will. I have always thought, Brooke, that the buzzing or the white noise or whatever that is that comes with it, I thought that was, at least in my own personal experience, the sound of ego fighting back, or the sound of outside influences trying to make their way into the experience that I was having. I think it's something that you've got to accept and kind of push through. That's just me. That is, I don't know. Oh, it's acupressure. Okay, yeah, no, I've heard. Okay, so I'm half-ass familiar with cupping then. So it's basically like the machine in The Princess Bride that sucked all the life out of Wesley, but different. Is that what we're talking about here? like a pump and shit. I mean, I get it. I've seen people like go through this thing before, and I'm not above like trying some freaky shit, dude. Um, I'm gonna fall off into a little tangent hole real quick. But if you've watched this show before, you've probably heard me mention that at one point in my life, I traveled around the country working for Renaissance festivals, and we would be in a place for like 2 or 2.5 months, and then we would go anywhere from like 600 to 200 miles to the next permanent fair site, and be there. Um, Not everybody works during the week, and Renaissance festivals, by and large, are only open on the weekends. Um, so what that means for a lot of people, especially if you're in a managerial position and you've got um, what counts as disposable income, you could get bored and do some freaky shit. This is in the days of like Jim Rose Circus. That was a thing. Freak shows and shit like that. So we would get we would do hangings and suspensions and pullings and whatnot, where we would put large flesh hooks through our back and our arms and our um, calves, and we would, hang from the ceiling, or put meat hooks through your pecs and get a couple of cable ties and tie off to somebody who had a couple of hooks in his back, and then you'd both be on skateboards and you'd go down the fucking street. Um, my my son's mom in New Hampshire got a bunch of, or not a bunch of, but at least 2 or 3 times got corset piercings done, where you would get like 9 to 13 different hoops put in on both sides of your back, and then you would lace them together like a corset. My point to all that is I'm not opposed to the idea of cupping, or vacuum caps or whatnot. Um, Doctors are fine with applying methadone and morphine, but not cannabis. No idea about the human endocannabinoid system. Now, this is something that I know that Dave and Chella from the show Reefer Revolution Live discuss a lot, and this is a topic that comes up on their show frequently. Because what Jill said is absolutely right. The doctors have no fucking clue about the human endocannabinoid system. There's no, up until very, very recently, there was no market for that knowledge. And if you don't think that medicine is market driven, I have a big, big, beautiful bridge to sell you. I know that when I went into Stanford like a dozen years ago, to see if I could, because I was being treated there for the leg injury that I had for falling off the roof. The doctor really, really wanted to give me her pharmaceutical grade heroin, and really, really did not want to give me a script for medical cannabis. And the only reason I asked for a script for medical cannabis is because at that point I was a little bit high on the fucking morphine that they gave me. Had I been thinking, I never would have said, "Oh yeah, dude, I totally want my name on a government list that says I smoke weed and you can come take my fucking gun." Like, but as it ended up, she did not write that script. So I did not wind up on a registry, and I did not have to subject myself to a voluntary or involuntary, what's a word I'm scrambling for here? I didn't have to give up my ability to own a firearm. And again, I live in Santa Cruz County. It literally grows on trees here, so you should not have to go and get a fucking um, put your name on a government registry just so you can grow a plant in your backyard. That seems pretty fucking ludicrous to me. Oh, also in the kratom tincture this morning was a little bit of lion's mane, because I have had that recommended to me. Ground up lion's mane mushroom powder is supposed to be good for your melon. So here's hoping. I don't know. God knows I need all the help I could get. When I really didn't take their heroin for a long time. When I broke my leg and shattered my ankle. When I woke up in the hospital, they informed me that I had a fentanyl epidural, and I was like, "You need to get this shit out of me right fucking now." And they're like, "I don't think you know how much pain you're in." And I'm like, "I don't think I want to leave here a junkie, so please get this shit out of my body." And I had to fight with them for 2 days out of the 4.5 days I was conscious in the hospital, out of the 6 total that I was there. Um, Waking up with an external fixator cast sticking out of my leg. I don't know if you've seen or had an external fixator before, but they've got rods coming up out of your shit, going back down into your shit, that also connect to the rods that they put in your shit. Not fun. But yeah, they finally took the fentanyl epidural out of my body. And they had me on a morphine drip thing, and then they gave me like a year's supply of Percocet that I immediately up on that. I bartered it for an equivalent amount of cannabis, and used that supplemental cannabis / income to compensate for the fact that I was not making my regular income. Having a medical card saves you loads in taxes if you don't have good growing. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ed. You're absolutely right. I'm not trying to tell anyone not to get a medical card. It saves you a fuck ton of money here in California. You don't have to pay the recreational tax or the custody tax or whatever. You like always, please fucking, you do you. Take whatever I have to say with as many grains of salt as you deem necessary. Having said that, like when I first came to this area, it was because I was involved in the industry. I still have friends that are struggling to stay alive in this industry now that it's gone recreational. And going recreational has had all of the intended consequences, like crushing fucking 90% of small farmers out of business here. If I lived over the hill, Ed, I would have a card. If I lived in, anywhere else but a major fucking outdoor growing area, I would have that card. And look, Ed, I'm using a tobacco pin. That should make you happy. It should. When it came to light that certain docs were essentially trafficking, they became quietly ripping chronic pain sufferers. So yeah, dude, this is not there. I mean, we had a lot of stories in the early 2000s about the pill mill that specifically the state of Florida was, but you come to find out there was like one specific county in West Virginia that was prescribing like 400 plus pills a year for every man, woman, and child. If you're familiar with Hank Williams III or his music, or the Carrot White family, there's a documentary called The Wild Wonderful Whites. And one of them is on there rattling a pill bottle going, "That's the county mating call." Like, it's fucked up, dude. It's yeah. off the fucking these were the same ones that like you would pull and it allegedly allegedly these are the same ones that you would pull up to and have your boy run in and come out with like 8 different scripts for fucking 100 oxys a piece. And like before you could even leave the parking lot, somebody was trying to either buy or sell 1,000 lot jars of fucking ecstasy, like in the same parking lot. Southern Florida, crazy back then. Crazy back then. Rick Scott is not like a real life Bond villain. He's like the third guy down from a Bond villain. Like he's henchman, like not henchman number 6. Like he probably gets a name in the movie. Like he probably gets a pun name in the movie. Like he'd be like Cue Ball or something like that. But yeah, he still dies way before the actual villain dies. He doesn't rank high enough. He's a capable foot soldier, but incapable of having his own thoughts or being a leader in his own right. At least in my opinion, that's who Rick Scott is. A named Bond henchman, but not an actual, not ranking high enough to be a villain. 120 Vicodin a month for years. That's like Brett Favre levels of Vicodin. That is insane. Every time I took Vicodin, it made me hurt, and it's a painkiller. And so the whole time that I'm like, on this shit, I'm like, yo, dude, if I hurt while on a painkiller, how much damage is this actually doing to my body if I can feel it and I'm also being numb? I'm not a fan of those, man. And I took a lot of pills recreationally for about 8 months when I was in high school. I had this buddy, and I'm not gonna say his name, because I know that he's like married and fucking all put together now, and it would be a bummer if this got around to his old lady. But his friend drove the truck for Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly, very large pharmaceutical manufacturing company. And so he was coming to school with like bags of all kinds of downers, and for about an 8-month period, leaving junior year and coming into senior year, there were a lot of sleepy motherfuckers around there. I got over it pretty quick. I don't know. I think that the damage that pills do to you, especially when you're younger, I think that damage is really evident. And there's got to be like a point where you're like, holy shit, dude, this is killing me. Maybe I should quit. Hoping psilocybin can help get me off of SSRIs once and for all. I hope so too, Philip. I don't know how you are with Kratom. I don't know if you've tried that or not, or if you think it would be beneficial. I know that it has been incredibly beneficial to me, not just in terms of pain management, but I am also coming up on 3 years alcohol free, and Kratom has helped a lot in terms of that. Like, it's not anything that I think about or dwell on. I just don't drink anymore. I'm not an active member of a 12-step program or any of that shit. I did go to some AA meetings during my first year because my boss is in the program and wanted me to come. And it fucking whatever. I'll probably show up and get a chip one of these days. I wonder if there's still bars in Chicago where if you come in with your chip, you get that many drinks or that many dollars off drinks. Kratom, Kratom, Kratom. If you spell it that way, though, Philip, look up the Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia episode on it on YouTube. It's one of the better and more informative and illustrative shows that I've seen. And also, when you order, fucking go get yourself a prepaid credit card. Only put the amount on it that you want to order, but order online, because if you go to a store, the marketing ridiculous. If you want, I will suggest a couple of sites in the show notes or on my Twitter. You type in Kratom onto a Twitter thread, dude. There are lots of different people that have have opinions on where to get it, but a lot of them are good too. I'm going to circle back to the Free Assange journalist and content creator week in September, because I'm pretty sure that Friday the 6th, Brooke Hines, who is currently in the chat, will be one of our guests, and I'm really looking forward to that. I always enjoy when I get to hang out and talk to Brooke. And in this particular case, it couldn't be for a better cause. Steve barely pronounces shit properly. That's only by sheer fucking luck that I got that right. I have murdered so many guest names during the fucking podcast interviews, and I feel really horrendously bad for it. But I got Placone right. So, he's been on the show more than anyone. So I feel good about that. I have to go pick up my first grader. I may be back. I don't know. Brooke, you need to get a hold of me about that other thing, though. And if I'm not back here shortly, 7:00 Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern time, Action number 4 Assange YouTube channel. We will we'll be hosting again at least half of the band Antibody. We have a couple other interviews. Oh, Ian Rose, that's right. Ian Rose is going to be on. I'm a fucking asshole. Yeah. Jesus Christ. I'm Steve Poikinen. This has been Slow News Day. This video is going to get edited. Good luck to us all.